Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the High Ticket Coaching and Consulting Strategy and Growth Show. Now, if you're watching this interview anywhere else but within our private community called High Ticket Client Attraction Insider Circle, be sure to come join us. We just surpassed 6,000 members, so we have some awesome members in our community. And we have Ashveen Shah. She's a member, so she's going to share with us a little bit about her backstory and what she does. And yes, you guys are in for a treat. So with that being said, welcome, Ashveen.
Thank you so much. It's so great to be here. Such a pleasure.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Awesome. So tell us, what is it that you do?
I am a holistic wellness coach and transformational trainer. I do also wear a second hat. I am a healthcare and regulatory compliance attorney, but to be quite honest, my passion and my focus is on the coaching because that's where I get to make the greatest difference. And I'm really impacting lives on an individual basis, which is my true love. And so my identity is that as a coach and not necessarily as a lawyer.
Yeah, awesome. So you start off well. You starting off as a lawyer, but you get into coaching and stuff. Like, what's how big of a shift is that?
I have to say it's pretty dramatic. The amount of personal growth I had to do to get there was far more significant than I realized because in the legal world, it's almost as if you're forced to not have feelings. And as you know, coaching is all about getting into your feelings and releasing them so you can get to the next level. And the next level in the corporate and legal sector isn't exactly the same as it is for me in the coaching sector. I'm looking to transcend, I'm looking to help my clients transcend. The next level in legal was next level of partnership. Let's see how much business you can bring in. And not that there's anything wrong with that or that's bad in any way, but
Hmm.
I feel that I was making impact in people's lives and earth on the whole in the way that we're all meant to do. And I truly believe we come here, we're born with a mission and a purpose, which ultimately is to bring the planet to a higher level. And so to try and kind of bridge the gap, I had to do a lot of self work. I had to do a lot of training, both, while I was at work, shutting down certain parts of me that would initially have that legal response. I had to teach myself to have the human response instead, which I have to be honest with you, didn't go over so well with my colleagues, but they're getting used to it. And I truly feel that if I can do it, honestly, anybody can do it. It doesn't matter where you are in life. You can open up those gates that have been shut, and you can open up the parts of your heart that you thought didn't exist anymore. And that's basically what I've done in the last 5 years. And it's a challenging but beautiful experience. And I think everybody deserves it. And we all have that gift in us, and we should really look to explore it.
Hmm. Awesome. So what do you find in terms of making a shift, right? So, because I realize different individuals, just like maybe say come from a corporate to being a lawyer and stuff like that. There's really, well, was it a pretty hard change for you to say, okay, this is just or did it happen gradually over time?
It was definitely a gradual process. And, I know
Mhm.
some people have said to me that for them it was instant. They woke up one day and they decided they just couldn't go to work anymore. I didn't have that experience. It wasn't as if I went to work and I said, oh, I can't do this anymore. I'm so beyond it. There was nothing wrong with my job. I actually enjoyed working with the people that I work with. They were wonderful people. So I didn't really have any negative experience that kind of propelled me to make the
Mhm.
shift. For me, it was more of my inner voice, my higher self calling to me and saying, listen, you're done here. The work you needed to do, the skills you needed to learn, you've learned them all. It's time to use them in a different way. Because what I actually did for about 10, 12 years, I transformed corporations from the inside out. The transformations that were done were for corporations that were suffering, they were going out of business, or they just, they didn't know how to make the leap to the next level. That's when we would go in. But the impact that I felt was biggest on me was not watching the corporation succeed, but the workers, the people I spoke to every day. They became my friends. And, when they hurt, I hurt. And that's when I realized that, wow, I don't need to transform corporations. I need to transform people because we're in the business of living. And if we're not living our life the way we were meant to, we're all going to have that crisis at some point. So why not get people to address it before they ever get to crisis? That's my
Mhm.
goal.
That's so powerful. I love it. I love what you said. Where you said the individuals you work with, you went into changing corporations, but at the end of the day, the individuals they became your
Yeah.
friends. And I
Yes.
truly believe, yeah, as coaches, consultants, that's one thing I realize as well too. It's when you get into this type of industry, this type of model, it's more based on, it's not about transactions anymore. Like literally individuals, you affect them at a personal level, and those become some of your best friends, right?
Yes, exactly. Because
Hmm.
you're there in the trenches with them. And,
Hmm.
for me personally, I don't think I'm ever done growing. So sometimes I'm working with a client and they face a particular issue, and I realize, wow, that shadow work they're doing right now, I could benefit from that too, because this is
Hmm.
triggering something in me. And then I sit there after the call and I figure out why I was triggered. So now it's a symbiotic relationship. Yes, we're the coach, we're helping them, but I think we get just as much value back from each person that we work with. And that's the beauty of it.
Right, right. Now, what about the wellness side of things? How does the wellness part look?
So my definition of wellness, I have to say, is very different than what most people perceive it to be. And the first question I get when I say I'm a wellness coach is, "Oh, can you help me lose 10 pounds? Really? So you're going to make a diet plan for me?" And, it always makes me smile because 20 years ago, that's what I would have said too. Because we do, unfortunately, live in a society that's very looks oriented. It's very, outward focused. So everybody, understandably, wants to look their best. But what about feeling your best? If you want wellness, there's more than just physical involved. There's spiritual, there's emotional, there's mental, and there's also how you're responding, your behavioral aspects. How are you dealing with everything? So I look at wellness on a whole spectrum, and I analyze life on that spectrum as well. I look to see, if so, for example, if somebody came to me and they said, I don't understand, I have this great job, my friends say I'm so lucky, but I don't feel fulfilled. I feel so unhappy. And so the first instinct would be, well, is it the job? It's not the job. So let's look at, how are you sleeping?
Hmm.
Are you spending enough time with your friends? Are you getting outside during the day, getting some sunshine? And a lot of the time, when people start answering these questions, they'll say, you know what, I haven't spoken to my best friend in 3 weeks. Well, that's going to lead to a little bit of loneliness if you don't have any connection. And now you are going to feel unfulfilled. I would feel unfulfilled if I, just shut myself off from everybody for 3 weeks at a time, which unfortunately a lot of professionals, especially women, are doing that because they're so busy just trying to get through their days, make a name, take care of their family, take care of the house, and they sometimes forget about themselves. So when we're talking wellness, we can't just look at diet and nutrition. That's a huge component of it. It's an important component of it, but we have to look at your spiritual, emotional, and mental life also, and that involves also meditation, mindfulness, and making sure that you're getting quality of life that works for you and balance that works for you. I don't believe there's anything such thing as balance, to be quite honest. Everybody says you have to balance personal and work life.
Hmm.
It's not possible. There's going to be days where work life is going to be predominant. That day, your balance is focusing on work life. But maybe the next day, you don't have as much work. Now you have more time for your husband or your children or your friends. That day, your balance is more towards your social connections. So each day and even each week, our balance and what's right for us is going to change. But the
Hmm.
goal is to make sure at the end of the day, when you do your wellness pyramid and you figure out what's important, you're creating balance that works for you and not balance that you're reading or being told should be implemented in your life. So
Yeah,
that's in a
yeah.
roundabout way. That's my definition of wellness.
Yeah, that's a powerful way you just explained it here as well too. Because as I've been growing my business as well too, especially when you get into that 7-figure level and surpassing seven
Mhm.
figures, it's one of those things where the balance. Because I realize most individuals, what they're looking for is some, like, what's the structure? If I just get that balance and I could just figure out how do I structure my day, then I'll just get this thing. And I
Yes.
realize that's typically not the way to
No.
perceive it. It's much, and I like the way you describe it, because it seemed like from the perspective you just shared here is like, hey, it might be better to look at your life not just by a 1 day period, but maybe look at it from maybe a week or month, and see in that time and then balance it that way versus trying to trying to take 1 day and fit every single thing in
Everything
there,
in.
right?
Yeah, and you're never going to
Hmm.
get it all done. And then what's going to happen is you're going to set yourself up for failure if you list everything in 1 day. And now your brain, at the end of the day, when you look at your little to-do list and you didn't check everything off, your brain is saying you failed. It may not be a voluntary, you're not saying it to yourself out loud, but your brain is reading it as a failure. And that's the last thing you want to do to yourself, because now you're losing trust that you have in yourself. And the main thing is to actually build the trust that you have in yourself and your abilities. And the way to do that is to chunk things together. And just to give you an example, when I used to do what's called filings, we would have a period of time where 2 to 3 weeks, it was 16-hour days, and that's all you did. But then when we were done, I would have a week where I just saw my friends every day. I was still balanced, maybe not by everybody else's definition, but I was making time for my friends. And I was also focusing on my career when I needed to focus on my career. And I think that's what it comes down to. You focus on the areas of your life that need the attention at any particular time in your life. You know, it could be a week, it could be a month. And then you go back to focusing on the rest of the things when it's time to focus on those. And
Mm-hmm.
to me, that's the definition of success, that you're really doing what you love, you're focusing on the things that need your attention, and you're fulfilled inside.
Yeah, that's so powerful. And I know for me, one of the visions I hold for my clients as well too, because I realize that it's one of those places where when you could, and I could kind of see that within yourself as well too. You kind of like dedicating yourself to a certain cause, or like, hey, this is what I'm about. This is what I want to do, and you're like not going down the traditional route where most individuals might say, hey, I'm at this job. It's really not what I want to do, but I'll just do it anyways, just to pay the bills and get by.
Yeah.
At some
Yeah.
point, you get to a point of just saying, you're just frustrated, and you just decide you gotta blaze your own path, right?
Exactly. And
Mm-hmm.
it's funny because I actually just had a friend ask me this yesterday. How did you decide to do this? How did you come to this? And I explained it to her. I said, it wasn't that, it was just, I woke up one day and my life was different. I think we all have this in us from the time we were born. Because I remember some of the thoughts in my head that I have now, I had them as early as 7 years old. Then they would come back at 14. Then all of a sudden at 27, I would be reading a book and I would think of that same thought again. And I finally realized that what your purpose is, and it's different for everybody. We all have our unique gifts. It's going to keep talking to you in your head until you pay attention to it and you decide, all right, I'm committed now. I'm following you 100%. I have faith that this is the right path for me. And once you give in, the steps start coming together. You'll be shown what to do. I truly believe that.
Yeah, yeah. And that makes so much sense because I know for myself, one of the ways I've always seen myself as is I've always knew that I would be in some position to help others. I didn't know what it was at the time, but I just knew that because I was one of the guys who kind of like, I love just reading and just spending time, getting ideas, playing around with ideas and seeing how they affected my life and being like, man, that if someone else could apply that, that would be so powerful. And I think finding your purpose, finding a place where you can fit in, just like with my purpose, I realized that it's just like in financial, like coaching, consultant, financial abundance. That's
Yeah.
why I realize it is for me, because I don't know why that is, but when I think about that, just like one of our clients, he just hit like $50,000 per month in his business. But
Amazing.
when I think about where he was at when he was first getting started, where he was really, really struggling, he is good at
Mhm.
what he did, but just so struggling. And I remember my own journey of going through that, but then
Yeah.
being able to see not yourself just working through, but helping somebody else do that. That's one of the most freeing feelings in the world. And I could definitely tell with your wellness coach and transformational coach, and that's something you've done for yourself, and now you want to kind of share it, which is just
That's
so great,
exactly
right?
That's
Yeah.
exactly what it is. Once you've been through it and you realize that it actually doesn't have to be as hard as it may have been for you, all you want
Hmm.
to do is help other people get there without having those same struggles, that same battle that you did. And, I almost get giddy when I think about it because you can
Hmm.
save them so many of the steps that you went through, and then they get to where you are quicker. And at the end of the day, honestly, we're all connected in some way, shape, or form. So why wouldn't we want everybody else getting to where we are with less struggle, right?
Exactly. I think that's what we all want as well. It's because and when you come from a place that you've done all the mistakes, you've made it all, and you've tried everything, and then you now come back and say, okay, I figured it out. And to see someone else, like seeing them going to make the mistakes is like one of the most painful things I think
Yeah,
anyone could do, right?
it is.
Um, so tell us, what's a story? Do you have any stories in your life, kind of like to the person you became? Because you've done quite a lot of stuff over your lifetime and stuff, and you're pretty successful. So what's one story that you would say that you could share with us from your past that's gotten you to where you are today? Do you have any of those?
I have a couple of those actually. So
Hmm.
one of them is kind of just a silly, funny story.
Oh, good. I like it.
Yeah,
It's been a long time since we last laughed on the show, so that's
right. It's important. So, and it's so funny because when I think about it, all of my journey has led me to this point. Even going to law school, becoming a lawyer, because I had that same I need to be in service instinct when I was little. And I used to watch The Cosby Show, and I would watch Claire Huxtable, and she was helping so many people. She was doing all this good work. And I would say, that's what I want to do. I want to be a lawyer because I can save, when you're 7 and you say that, you think you can save the world. So
Right.
I would tell my parents, I'm going to save the world. And they would be like, okay, you go for it. So I did it. And of course, realistically speaking, it was very different than what you see on TV, but you don't realize that when you're 7 years old. And so when I first got into it, I was approached by a group of women. I was a huge runner at the time. I still run, but not to the extent that I did. And back then I used to run like 10, 12 miles a day. And we started this organization called Girls on the Run. And we started it for Long Island, our immediate area, because there's an international version of it. And then there's local councils, they call them.
Mm-hmm.
And what we basically did was instill this program where we're helping young girls between the ages of 8 and 13 find their confidence through thinking for themselves, through running a 5K, which gives them physical confidence. And then we do lessons, which helps build their mental confidence. And just doing that program, I was on the board for quite a few years after that, and seeing the transformation that took place in the lives of these girls, I think is what made it click for me that, wow, I can do the same transformation for women who are already older, who didn't get the benefit of this program. I think it's great to stop the story before it ever begins, but not everybody's that lucky. Some of us have that story, and now we have to break it down and get rid of it. So why can't I be the one that helps break it down and helps them shun their old habits and, any patterns that aren't working? And then they can be like those little girls, because that little girl is still inside of them.
Mm-hmm.
She's still there. All she needs is somebody to show her it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that was my turning point when I helped create that organization. And I don't think I ever looked back since then.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Now, another one is, next question is skills wise. What's one skill you say you've mastered over your lifetime that's really gotten you to this point?
Resilience by far.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, and I honestly believe that it's a skill. Some of us, are born with more resilience than other people, and we handle stress. But I happen to be one of those people. I'm very lucky, and I only know that because I did a genetic test. I wouldn't have even known it otherwise. But for those of us that don't know whether we're naturally resilient, the amazing thing is that that's only 1/3 of the component. You can learn resilience from other people, and you can also build it through the experiences that you go through. Mm-hmm. And the more resilience you have, the better equipped you are to withstand anything that comes your way. So even what we're experiencing right now, this pandemic, mm-hmm. the people that I know who are more resilient have been less impacted by it. And not necessarily because they didn't have anything bad happen. It's just that they're more capable of handling the bad when it does come. So I think that's a very important skill, and all of us should be working on developing that.
Yeah, that's a powerful one. I know for myself, right? So
yeah.
It's one of those things, yeah, and as an entrepreneur, it's needed. I know most of the audience watching, their coaches, consultants, are trying to build the business, trying to get some traction. And guys, I'm going to tell you, resilience is key. Like, you have to get to a point of, like, I don't know what it is, because I think about my own journey, how I was able to develop it. I know for
mm-hmm.
myself, I'm from the Caribbean island called St. Lucia, and growing up there, I always believed that I could do whatever I wanted to do, right?
Right.
And then I kind of joined the U.S. Marines. I spent about 3 months in a boot camp, and I kind of saw how some individuals, you could just tell, like, you could just see how, whether someone is going to make it or not. And I don't know how that happens, but you could just see the resilience level, which is the minute
mm-hmm.
something gets tough, that person will quit. Versus I met a few guys who, because of the training should only be 3 months, but I met a few guys who were in there like 9 months and stuff. And those guys who, like, because everyone just wants to get out of the training. Everyone's like, hey, I'm going to do my best. Even if I'm hurt, I'm going to suck it up to just get through it. But there's some guys who, just because of their situations or whatever, like, remember this one guy, he was like, I think he came like at 200 pounds or whatever, and he was really overweight. And by the time he left, like, he had lost so much weight, like, the skin, like, he had lost so much weight that you could still see this. You could tell he was a big person. Yeah. And I was like, man, but that type of mindset, it's there, because anyone else would have just quit. There's some guys I realize they have that. So it's one of those things, I believe that it's definitely trainable, just like you said. It's not, because most people believe that, well, that's just another person, or that's just this person. But I believe that if you just take time, just find small situations to where the moment you'd feel like you'd quit, just push a little bit further, whether it's through your workout or whether it's through staying up a little bit later or whether it's through the minute you get
Exactly.
tired, just push a little bit longer. That's
Exactly
where
right.
over time these things build up, right?
Oh, 100%. And I think that's what some people don't realize and they miss, that the way to build resilience is to put yourself through the test. So, I'll
Mhm.
do that. And I remember when I was training for marathons, I would do that every day. And I would think, okay, today I'll run 8 miles. And then the next day I would say, I'm going to run 8 miles and I'm going to add 2/10 of a mile to it.
Mhm.
And you slowly push yourself and you build yourself. And the next thing you know, you're running 20 miles and then you do the race and you finish it because you made your mind believe that it could do it by testing it just a little bit more. And you obviously don't want to go to the extreme from the beginning. And because then if it doesn't work out, your mind's going to say, I told you not to do that. That's not the mindset we want to develop. But just like you said, every day, if you want to get up early, set your alarm for 10 minutes earlier than you did the day before. And then keep doing that for a week and then make it half an hour earlier. Your body adapts, and our mind is one of the strongest weapons we have. I think
Mhm.
people are too afraid to use it. And I think was it Marianne Williamson that said that, our biggest fear isn't that we won't succeed. Our biggest fear is that we actually will succeed, because
Yeah.
we know the power of our mind, but not everybody is comfortable enough with who they are to actually release it. I think that's the biggest issue.
Yeah, I think that, and the second thing I believe is with today's day and age, like we're so
Mhm.
connected,
Yes.
meaning that there's so much information coming at us, and just how if you think about how a average person goes through a day, right? Like they have a
Hmm.
phone, they have a laptop, probably a tablet or something, and they're always switching from device to device to device, so you're always connected. And I find that just like one of the things I constantly remind myself of too, because results I found, especially when for me to get to seven figures, I've gotten to that seven-figure level in my business. It wasn't by accident. I
Right.
literally had to my mind had to be reconditioned, and the best way I could explain is that I had to see it before it ever happened. Like I had to figure out
Hmm.
how do I spend more time with that vision versus how do I spend more time online, or how do I spend more time listening to this person, or how do I spend more time reading that type of stuff. I had to create my own vision of
Yeah.
what my business would look like, how it would need to look, who would I be working with, how would it be structured, and visualize my own thing. And I realized that's a part where most people can't give you. It's a part where
Right.
you have to be disconnected to say, okay, let me get away from all of the noise and let me get away
Yeah.
from what other people want me to have or want me to do or think I should be spend my time on, and let me go through what
Exactly.
I want this to look like and spend more and more time just conditioning, like being there. And I guess the best explanation I could say of it is Kobe Bryant, right?
Hmm.
I listened to an interview with him, and he talked about when he was like maybe 11 years old or something. He said that he would literally what do you call it, it's like right before he dozed off to sleep, he would imagine, because the Lakers was his favorite team, he would just imagine at 11 years old being there playing basketball with
Yeah.
the greats, and by the time he actually dozed off, he would have like scored like 111 points or something. And he did
Right.
that every single night, and it was fascinating to see that he actually did and play for the Lakers, and he spent his entire career playing for the Lakers, and he's like one of the best players alive when he was alive, at least. Yeah.
No, and I firmly believe in that. Your mind will believe whatever you tell it.
Um,
And so he was basically telling his mind every single day, you are already there. And so his mind basically said, wow, he's telling us I'm already there. I got to figure out how to get there because I'm the one that's behind. I've read this repeatedly and I really implemented it into my morning practice as well, making sure that your vision is clear. And once you get it clear to the point where you've convinced your brain you're there, your brain will figure out how to get you there.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's so powerful. Yeah, because I know for myself, it's always been, especially like, let's say, a simple example, I'd waken up. So in the past, when I wanted to wake up early and change, 'cause I always change routines and stuff. And the way I used to do it was say, if I wanted to wake up earlier, let me just set the alarm, and I would do that, but I would still go back to sleep.
Right.
And versus the way I always figured out how to do it was saying, okay, you know what? I'm not gonna do anything external, but I'm gonna wake up at whatever time I wake up. If it's late, whatever, but I'm just gonna do that. But when I wake up, I'm gonna spend maybe 5 or 10 minutes visualize myself playing the tape over and over again of me waking up at a certain time, me waking up at a certain time, and just doing that, and not really caring about it, not really caring whether I do it or not. And I
Right.
found that the next day I would sleep in or whatever, the next day I'd sleep, but all of a sudden, maybe the fourth, fifth, sixth day, I just wake up at a certain time. I'm like, what's happening here? And I find myself in the moment doing what I wanted to do in the first place. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah, doing the mental part of it, it just makes it so much easier
So
versus
much
trying to
easier.
force the world to make it happen, right?
Yes, and I think you said something very key just now. You said you didn't care about whether you actually did it, you just wanted to visualize yourself. You release the outcome. Once you release the outcome and just focus on the goal, I think the goal becomes a reality much more quickly.
Right.
You're not trying to control it anymore.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. Now, I'm not sure if I asked you this question, skills. Did I ask you the question about what skill have you developed? I think I
Yes,
did.
the resilience.
Awesome. Now, what about habits? Do you have one habit that you think that it's just the ultimate habit that if anyone wants to get into personal development, personal growth, improve life, business, what's that one habit you would say is the
Yeah, and this is going to be a cliche, but it's a cliche because it's true. It's proven. Mindfulness. I think it's like you just said before, actually shutting out the noise. I made a conscious effort that I'm not going to sign up for any more courses this year. I'm just going to work, I'm going to reread books I've already read because I'm shutting out that noise, and I'm going to make sure that I meditate twice a day and just sit in silence, and whatever lessons I've already learned, let them really seep in, and then let me see what comes out of that. Let me see what thoughts emanate during that period of mindfulness. And I've already started journaling more. I have dogs, so I walk them, and the ideas pop in my head like this. I'm constantly taking notes on my phone as they pop in. And for a short period of time, I was stuck in that avenue because I had so much information I was consuming. And like you said, I had people sending me messages on the tablet, the computer, the phone. And when you get to that point, your brain is so overstimulated that it's not going to be able to process or be creative. So you've got to give it the rest. And by rest, I mean complete mindfulness, not just sleeping. Sleeping isn't rest. Your brain is doing a lot while we're sleeping. You have to sit there and just feel, just be present, and then let your brain do what it does best and feed you the ideas that you need.
love it? Thank you so much. Hey, well, appreciate you being here. I know we're running short on time here, but if someone wanted to get in touch with you, what is the best way to reach out?
I would say either my website or my Instagram handle. And my website is just afsheenshaw.com. And my Instagram handle is at afsheenshaw.
Awesome. There you go, guys. So what you just mentioned there, all the links, I will have them right below this video. So if you're watching this on the live or on the replay, the link should be right below if you want to connect with her. Well, oh man,
Okay.
Afsheen.
Yes.
Yes, Afsheen. Well, hey, great. Thank you so much for stopping by the show. I really, really appreciate
Thank
it. I'm looking
you.
forward to keeping in touch, okay?
Yes, absolutely. Such a pleasure.
Awesome. Have a good one.
You too.